into the future.
Please come to the dais. Thank you.
I was expecting to see Patricia in some Mickey Mouse ears today.
I can't afford any.
No kidding.
No, I have the cutest Mickey Mouse hat.
Spend her money in Florida.
I know, I know.
Spending money there.
I know.
Alicia, did you go to Disney World?
I did,
Lisa was against the younger fishes.
Yeah, exactly.
and we only went there.
Could we have council members please come to the dais? Well, we got 5, so we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, I'd like to call to order the council meeting for July 24th. And if the clerk could please call the roll.
Certainly, Councilmember Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Garza,
Here.
Councilmember Hussein,
Here.
Councilmember Jackson,
Present.
Councilmember Cost,
Here.
Councilmember Spitzley,
Here.
Councilmember Spatafor, Councilmember Wood.
Here.
There are 7 members present and quorum. Councilmember Spatafor is absent.
At this time, it's the opportunity for meditation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there anyone that someone would like us to remember at this time? Seeing no one, let's rise for the pledge. We'll meditate first. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No.
We don't have proceedings for approval tonight, so we are to comments by council members and the city clerk.
Council member comments at this time. Have any council member comments? Okay. I don't. Okay, council member Jackson. I see you. I recognize you.
Thank you. Just wanted to announce our next constituent contact meeting in August will be the 26th. It is every 4th Saturday for the 4th Ward, 4th Saturday at Gregory's Restaurant, which is 2510 North Martin Luther King, starting at 10 o'clock. Look forward to speaking with anybody about any City of Lansing related matters. And there's also good food and a good atmosphere as well. See you there.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Cost.
Thank you, President Wood. I just want to thank we had an incredibly bad storm come through the east side. I want to thank the public service employees that are currently out there working. They've been picking up the broken limbs day in and day out for the last few weeks, so I very much appreciate all the hard work that they've been doing. They've stayed in contact with me. We've had good communication all around to make sure that things are getting done. And then also, the 25th, tomorrow, from 5 to 7, there will be a cleanup at Morris Park Pool. There's going to be free food provided as well. We're going to be kind of cleaning the rocks up and getting the grime off of it, as well as getting all those leaves up. So if you've got some time, please pop in and please help us clean up our 101-year-old pool that just got funding to get fixed.
Hey, thank you, sir. Are there other council member comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the clerk.
Thank you, President Wood. Just a couple things. We are about 2 weeks out. 2 weeks from tomorrow is our city primary election for the 2 at-large candidates, so there's 8 candidates, and the top 4 vote getters will move on to the November general. Each voter can vote for up to 2. And then the first ward is also up this year. There are 3 candidates for 1 position, so voters can vote for up to 1 person, and the top 2 vote getters will move through to November. We do have 2 candidates in the 3rd ward, and since it would narrow it to 2, that one just skips the primary and will not even appear on the ballot. A couple things, there is still time to get an absentee ballot, either by mail, and you can contact our office at 483-4131 or go to lansingvotes.gov to find out more ways to do that. Or you can come in person to either of our offices here on the 9th floor of City Hall or at 2500 South Washington, and we can get you a ballot in person. I do want to make a note that some of our polling places are not available for various reasons for this election. Excuse me. The voters impacted are going to be getting a postcard in the mail, but I'll just note that Willow School, Lyons School, the Lansing School District Administration Building downtown, and the Board of Water and Light Building on Hayco Drive, all 4 of those locations are not available, so we are relocating those voters, and you'll get a notice in the mail in the next several days. And we'll email a notice if we have your email as well. So let that be the reminder to please get out and vote August 8th. If you're voting in person, the polls are open from 7 a.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. We have issued over 12,000 absentee ballots, and voters have until 8 o'clock election night to get those back. We've only gotten about 40% back, so a lot of folks are hanging on to those so far. This is the last council meeting before that, so please remind your friends and neighbors to get out and vote. And with that, we are to community event announcements. You can take up to 1 minute to tell us the time, place, and purpose of your event. Have one, please go ahead and jump up.
The Friends of Lansing's Historic Cemeteries will be hosting another annual Service of Remembrance inside Mount Hope Cemetery in the Fratcher Memorial Garden on Sunday, August 27th at 3 p.m. This is a service to remember and honor your loved ones that passed in the last year that are buried or interred in any of the 3 city cemeteries, Evergreen, Mount Hope, or North. This is a free public service open as a courtesy from the Friends to the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other community events? All right, seeing none, let me announce that now is the sign up for public comment on legislative matters. That is the blue sign-in sheet in the back. And legislative matters tonight does include items 2 through 20. Lots of things to comment on. Items 2 through 20 on the printed agenda. None of those are public hearings, but items 2 through 20, so please jump up and sign in if you wish to speak. And with that, we are to the mayor's comments.
Mayor Shore.
Thank you. Just a few quick items to note. First, wanted to let our public know that we have been upgraded with our bonds for the city of Lansing, which to the public means that there'll be a smaller tax bill. We went out to S&P and Kroll and pitched the incredible things going on in the city of Lansing, and they gave us a better credit rating. So it looks like we will be at about 3.5 mils rather than 3.9 mils for our public safety complex, which will be savings for our residents, which is good news. Wanted to thank the Lieutenant Governor for joining us at the Moores Park Pool announcement, where we're going to be getting $6.2 million thanks to our legislative delegation, Senators Sarah Anthony and Sam Singh, Representative Emily Devendorf, and Kara Hope, and Angela Whitwer for your work on that, and the other $130 million or so that we got, but it's exciting. We are expecting the construction documents any day. and then we'll get bidding out in anticipation of the project. So the pool will move as fast as it can, and we hope to have it open as soon as possible. Speaking of Morris Park, thanks to everybody that participated in the water balloon fight over the weekend. That looked like a lot of fun. All parts of the city represented, so that was great. I want to congratulate the Lansing Common on another great season, 5-2 win on a few days ago, on Sunday, yesterday. And that was awesome. I got to see the first half. They looked great. And then I wanted to give just a final update, or a today update on the East Side cleanup. Been out there a few times, and I want to thank all of our public service staff. They've been fantastic. The crews, we have one crew working on Leslie right now, north towards Michigan, and the other is on Fairview, working also north towards Michigan. The Fairview crew is about completed. The crew on Leslie will join them. Clemens is done, and those on Regent Street, we know you still have some brush, and we're going to get it. We're picking it up and storing it in Kriego, and we'll be coming to council later on to deal with getting that out of Kriego, but we wanted to get it off the yards and off the streets. So thank you to our public service crew who have done just an incredible job cleaning up after that crazy, crazy storm, tornado, wind gust, whatever we want to call it. Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President.
Mayor Shore, did you want to talk about the Mayor's Senior Fair?
Yes, the Mayor's Senior Fair is coming up August 5th, I want to say 15th,
And,
right? 15th? Nope,
and
10th. Sorry, we have flyers in my office. I saw it today. It is coming up. Let me get you the date. I don't have the date. What is it? The 10th, yeah, August 10th, thank you. August 10th, Mayor's Senior Fair, Gardner. We do breakfast, we do lunch, we have all kinds of resources. All of the seniors in Lansing will get a postcard. So those are either in the mail or they've dropped. I hadn't heard that anybody actually got one yet, but I know we were putting them in the mail. And that's always a lot of fun. And I will eat the meatloaf. I will be there eating the meatloaf and enjoying everyone's company. And we get a lot of folks at Gardner School. We'll have shuttles. We usually have golf carts and things for those that can't make the walk. We have all kinds of resources. So thank you for reminding me. But it's a lot of fun. We get to spend all day with a lot of great, wonderful residents of the city of Lansing, and I know that they appreciate it. Thank you for the reminder, Madam President.
thank you. Are there other comments? Okay.
Okay, we are to public comment on legislative matters. Again, that's items 2 through 20. The first speaker is Erica Lynn, followed by Mike Lynn.
Hello again, Erica Lynn. So I noticed on the agenda today you guys are going to be discussing, putting through some verbiage changes to one of the ordinances regarding this chamber. And it really struck me as I started to read through. It does make sense. I think it's important that this is referred to as the Tony Benavides Lansing City Council Chambers. That's accurate, and it does need to be updated. It's also, I'm noticing, a lot more specific language to name that this is City Council Chambers. It's council chambers. It's not just the 10th floor. It's not just the conference room. It's not just the conference center. But what really struck me is it does note in here that any non-city individual or group desiring the use of the council facilities for a governmental purpose, which apparently you can only use it for a governmental purpose, must have permission. You have to sign something saying, you're going to be doing things in accordance with all of this. But what it really made me think is that this is not a public facility, at all, in any way, shape, or form. And the changes to this ordinance and the verbiage to this is reflecting that it's very much, a place to do business for you all to do business, and it's rightfully stating so. And I feel a little bit ridiculous playing semantics with the verbiage and the words on it. I honestly do. But I just watched that happen when you all were threatened with this being a public space to discuss legislative matters and governmental business. So it really was very, very fitting that this would be on the agenda today for you all to be changing something to make it more importantly specific that this is city council chambers. But then I just heard a whole discussion about you all being put up on misdemeanor charges if you discuss certain things in a public facility. So which is it? Is this a public facility, or is it the Tony Benavides City Council chambers, where business is to be discussed and done? So if I feel silly playing semantics, imagine how silly and terrifying it felt watching that conversation be had in front of us. It felt literally like 1984. If there was a depiction of totalitarianism, that was it. So is it a public facility where you all can't discuss things that the public has brought to your attention? Or is it city council chambers where you should be discussing things openly and honestly and transparently? That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mike Lynn, followed by Samba Saidi.
Similar discussion, Mike Lynn. Again, with the council chambers aspect, I thought that as I was listening to the city attorney brain screw, for lack of a better term, what this building is intended to do in order to, again, give his opinion. And so I just want to say with that aspect, in this building, in this body, what we all witnessed out here was terrifying, to be honest with you. And I appreciate your guys' response to it because you didn't back down. And watching a city attorney do exactly, and I'm going to say it plainly, using that position as a weapon, plainly stated. So I know you all want to play nice and not act as if that's what happened, but that's what exactly happened, and the community all watched it happen. Sad that the news hadn't been here, but LSJ was, so thank you, Crystal. I'm sure she'll be writing about that. But that's exactly what you did, because before that conversation even came up, in this office that's supposed to be, and I get told this all the time when I come here, this is where we held our meeting at. This is where we hold our meeting. We can't talk about things in a quorum anywhere else, so this is where we have to have that meeting. This has been a conversation for a month now about this whole ethics complaint, about these possible violations that this mayor has made. And where can you guys talk about it other than right here? And you guys were all threatened, literally, with a misdemeanor. See why I say I couldn't be up there? Because we'd have had that whole conversation all the way out. I'm not scared of a misdemeanor. You're not going to threaten me. But also to Brian Jackson's complaint or conversation about who brought that first ethics complaint, that should be investigated in itself, because it was a nothing burger. And somebody tried to use the city attorney's office as a weapon. And the fact that he just sat up here and threatened you all with that, I would take an outside attorney's aspect on that. Is what he said true, or did he just sit up here and threaten you all in front of all of us? Threaten a body, because if I was to threaten one of you all, I'd be locked up in prison. It's a felony to threaten an elected official in any form or fashion. So if that's what he just did, if I was you all and I was the 8 people up there that got threatened with that, and I seen the tone of the room when he said that, it scared the hell out of everybody. Even us out here, I'm sitting here looking at my elected officials like, dang, really? Is it true? I know it's his opinion. And then when the opinion got challenged, he told you, Ryan, we'll see how that goes for you. Another threat. Another threat. How dare you keep threatening our elected officials? You're not an elected official. You're an employee. How dare you? I call for his resignation, plainly. And you guys have the ability to do that. You absolutely have the ability to get him off of there, period. Because threatening elected officials is illegal. It's illegal to do it. And if I was to do it, I'd be in prison. So should he.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Samba Saidi.
Good evening. I've registered to comment on item 19, but since there is no public comment on it, I would rather waive my time.
Thank you.
Thank you. He can.
Sir, sir, this was your opportunity to make public comment on it. Did you want to make any more comment? Okay, thank you.
I misunderstood.
Our next speaker,
That was it, so we are to the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Okay. With that, Vice President Garza, but before I do that, I was reminded by the city clerk that August 1st is Neighborhood Night Out. And there's a number of neighborhoods that are having Neighborhood Night Out. So please check if you are part of a neighborhood to see whether they will be gathering as part of Neighborhood Night Out. And Mayor, normally council members get a copy of the different neighborhoods that are planning to have festivities. So if we could make sure we get that from LPD, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think Anthony Vandervoorde has that.
Okay.
He comes through that office, so if you let him know.
All right, if you'd make sure that we have that, thank you. All right, with that, I go back to Vice President Garza.
All right, thank you, Council President. I just want to clarify, I don't think Anthony Vandervoorde is going to be in town for that, is what I heard from one of the.
I think he's got the list, but Mark said he's got it.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, with that, I move the following items on the consent agenda. Number one being the firework display license, Lansing Lugnuts and Pyrotechnical Firework Incorporated at Jackson Field on July 29th. Establish Red Cedar South Frandor Social District. Setting a public hearing on Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, the Oprah District Homes on Homes LLC for property located at 230 South Holmes Street. And setting a public hearing on Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, Oprah Certificate Homes on Homes LLC for property located at 230 South Holmes Street. And last but not least, a workers' compensation settlement, WC 2062876-01474, a settlement of $35,000.
All right, with that, all those in favor of the consent agenda say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to some appointments.
Okay, our first one is Raven Gilmore for the Park Board.
Councilmember Hussein.
Sure. So we were fortunate enough to have Ms. Gilmore with us in committee today. I thought it was an exceptional interview. We were able to learn quite a bit about Ms. Gilmore, and obviously of special note was the interest in the Parks Board, this particular board. Ms. Gilmore has lived in Lansing since 2020. She currently resides in the 4th Ward. She is the Court Relations Program Coordinator for the Michigan Supreme Court, and showing a real genuine and sincere interest in this particular board. This was actually her first choice on the application for board appointment. Ms. Gilmore stated both in her application but also as part of the interview that she believes she can help when it comes to strategic planning, advocacy, citizen engagement, parks and recreational programming, and helping parks reach its full capacity and potential. One of the many motivating factors for her application to the Parks Board was the recent witnessing of concerned citizens advocating to keep Bancroft Park open and walkable to the public instead of turning it into a driving range. Again, based on the application, based on her credentials and the interview today, again, which was exceptional, we did vote to unanimously support. So with that being said, I would move the resolution.
We have a motion before us for the appointment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. If you could come up into the well, we'll get you sworn in.
I would say I've never seen an application with a picture of someone's dog on it. That was really good.
Right up to the mic.
Thank you all for inviting me.
Oh, thank you.
Raise your right hand.
All right.
Repeat after me.
Sure.
Speak right into the mic.
Okay.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Park Board member
of the office of Park Board member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. And now that takes us to the adjacent neighborhood resident for the Downtown Inc. and Councilmember Spitzley.
Councilmember Brown's going to do those because I was absent.
Okay, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. We have appointment for
Yep, Joshua Pugh for the adjacent neighborhood member. He came and interviewed, did a wonderful job, has served in many different roles across Lansing, and is very necessary in the community. He's worked on several different economic development and community events such as the Jazz Fest, Blue Fest, and a few others. And so I move that we appoint him to the DLI Resident Member Board.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Sir, you've seen how it's done. If you'd come up to the mic.
You've heard most of this before. Okay, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of
Downtown Lansing Inc.
Board Member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Okay, that takes us to the business representative for Downtown Inc., and I will turn to Councilmember Brown.
Okay, can I go to item 9, Shane Muchmore, which is the Second Ward Planning Commission?
Jesse is the next one.
P. Shane Muchmore, Patrick.
Number 9.
Number.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was out of order. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, the
No
planning
problem.
commission.
Yeah, it's all connected together. So we have Patrick Muchmore, who came before us, interviewed very well, has an extensive background in public administration, as well as working in the political environment, advocating for the community. This was his first choice to planning board, and we had a great interview with him, a very qualified individual, so I move his appointment.
All right, we have a motion on the appointment. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Sir, if you'd come up here to the mic.
Ready?
Definitely.
All right. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Planning Commission member
as on the office of Planning Commission member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
All right, congratulations.
Good to see you.
Okay, now, Councilmember Brown, if we could do the business representative for the Downtown Inc.
Thank you. That we have Jesus Jesse Flores as the business representative of Downtown Lansing Inc. I see him in the crowd. We've interviewed him, and he's very active in the community. He has done a great job in trying to activate different businesses and serving small businesses, being a community member who's willing to advocate and help, I guess, mentor businesses for their success. So he comes highly recommended from the community, as well as very educated, and is a small business owner in Lansing as well, in the downtown area, or excuse me, the downtown district. So I move for his appointment. To add him to, let's make sure we get it right, the business representative of Downtown Lansing Inc. Board.
All right, we have a motion before us. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And as he's getting ready to be sworn in, we are offline again, City TV, just letting you know that. Okay.
All right, ready?
I am.
Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of
Downtown Lansing Inc. Board Member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our final appointment is for the Arts and Culture Commission. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. We have Morgan Butts for appointment for the at-large. She came and interviewed very well and very qualified in arts and has been very active. We were all very impressed with the level of work that she's done in that community and said we couldn't be more privileged to have someone who could meet the need and has given their education, service, and experience to arts and culture. So with that, I move the appointment.
All right, we have a motion on the appointment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously, and it's my understanding she is not here this
That's my
evening.
understanding as well, unless she stands up in the next second. No.
Nope, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then we are to claim appeal, item 12, claim appeal for claim 1967.
Councilmember Hussein.
Sure. So first, folks, you have actually a substitute resolution that I'm going to ask you consider for adoption. There was an issue in the resolution that's in the packet. I think it referenced an amount of $750, and it should have referenced $715. So with that being said, I would first move the adoption of the substitute.
We have a substitute in front of us. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving the substitute say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilmember Hussein.
All right. So with regard to this particular property, again, this is the address of 1611 Lansing Avenue. This is in fact a red tag property. Property was cited February 9th of this year for trash, debris, things of that nature. The property was rechecked on February 17th, and the contractor actually arrived on March 6th, which was nearly a month later. In any event, the trash was still present. New trash and debris had accumulated, and so that trash and debris and the additional accumulation, as referenced in the notice letter, the correction notice letter, was abated as well. And so the contractor abated, the city incurred a cost, and obviously the property owner was billed. In any event, we did have Mr. Ali Keel in the committee. He discussed the fact that this material was actually meant to bring the property up to code. Based on the pictures, we disagreed. Looked like these materials actually had been pulled off of the building as part of an active construction site. So we talked to Mr. Ali Keel about maintaining what it looks like to maintain an appropriate construction site, and also that the trash and debris and things of that nature simply cannot persist on the property for that length of time. So with that being said, we did recommend denial in full in committee. So with that being said, I would move for full denial of claim number 1967.
All right, we have a motion before us. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the denial say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, we've got item 14, special assessment for snow and ice.
Councilmember Hussein.
Sure.
Isn't,
Yeah, we skipped one,
we have the
actually.
business.
Yeah, I mean,
You're right.
License
I'm
appeal.
sorry. It's my turn to skip ahead.
Okay, trying to move us through. Okay.
Do you want me to just move 14? Or do you want me to go back?
Go back to
All right,
14.
we'll go back. So what we're looking at right now is a business license appeal for Mr. DeAndre Thomas, and this was for a transient merchant license at 2215 West Holmes Road. Folks might remember we had a show cause hearing on July 10th. Mr. Thomas was in fact present. We had a presentation from law that night. In any event, we had Mr. Thomas, and this time we actually had Officer Waukes into committee, and that was today. So we heard a little bit more testimony. We were able to wade in a little bit deeper, and there was even an exchange a little bit between LPD and this particular applicant. In any event, Mr. Thomas was denied a transient merchant license for a food truck barbecue business, which he established actually back in 2010, the business aspect of it, and it's named DT's Grilled and Smoked Meats. We, as part of the committee conversation today, we learned that the LPD recommended denial for a few reasons. Number one, extensive criminal history. Two, lack of disclosure of 4 separate incidents where Mr. Thomas pled guilty to charges ranging from possession to resisting and obstructing an officer. And then third, inaccurate disclosures. Officer Waukes did today in committee suggest that the reason for an appellate process is to be able to wade a little bit deeper into some of these issues and really be able to determine character and things of that nature of a particular applicant. He did state that, unfortunately, when he's actually vetting these types of things, all he can do is go based on what is actually on that paper. I did ask a specific question regarding the omission of certain violations. I asked if those particular violations had actually been disclosed when Mr. Waukes had, based on those violations, denied this particular application, and he said no. So in any event, based on some of the testimony that we heard on the 10th as part of the show cause hearing, based on some of the communication today in committee, we did actually unanimously recommend granting this particular appeal. So with that being said, we would move the resolution.
Okay, we have a motion before us to grant the appeal. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now, Councilmember Hussein will go to snow and ice, even though we've got 90-degree weather.
Right. So we, again, had a public hearing on July 10th. We vetted this once again in committee today. Nothing has changed. We still have heard of no appeals. We've had no comment during public hearing. This particular special assessment includes 24 individual properties so as part of the roll, that totals $6,726. And with that, we move the resolution.
All right, we have a motion before us. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilmember Hussein.
All right, so this might have confused folks. We did have a public hearing on this on July 10th. There was, as referenced in committee today, a first-time glitch with regard to software, and so about 473 residences were actually missed. So there had been some communication from some folks that basically said, look, we never got notice of a public hearing, what's going on? And so Public Services, and we want to thank Alec Melvides, who was actually on hand today, they investigated and determined absolutely that did in fact happen. The technological glitch has been fixed, and so we do need to set a second public hearing. That would be August 14th. One of the things that Public Services and Law talked about was whether or not, or I should say, whether we should actually notice all properties as opposed to just the 473 that were omitted. Law did opine that absolutely we should, and so they are going to notice all properties, including the 473 missed. So with that being said, I would move for a public hearing on August 14th.
All right, we have a motion before us. Are there any other questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of setting the public hearing for August 14th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilmember Spitzley, are you taking this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. What we have before us is a request for a lot split request for 2024 Farrell Street for the construction of 2 single-family homes. This has been approved by zoning. The zoning of the property, the primary consideration is, when evaluating the request, is the lot size and dimensions. And while these 2 proposed parcels, the dimensions are longer than what is normally done, when you look at the subdivision or the area in whole, there are multiple parcels that are as long as that, and therefore consistent with surrounding areas. And so the zoning administrator made a motion to approve the splitting of those lots. And with that, I would move for the approval of the splitting of the 1 lot into 2 lots for single-family homes.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Spitzley. Motion before us. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. For anyone, we're off air again. Mayor, we seem to be having this problem almost every council meeting. If you could work with City TV, I don't know whether it's the fact that it's on YouTube and that's why there's the problems, whether we're having connect issues here, but if you could follow up on that and get back with us, I would appreciate it.
I will ask Dominic if he knows what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are to ordinances for introduction and setting a public hearing. Our first one, Councilmember Wood introduced an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to amend the Lansing Codified Ordinances by amending Chapter 210, Section 210.02 of the Lansing Codified Ordinances to amend the uses of the 10th floor council chambers and conference room. The ordinance is read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee of the Whole.
Vice President Garza.
Thank you, Council President. So this simply is to clean up some language in the ordinance, and with that, I move to set the public hearing for August 14th.
All right, we have a motion before us. And just for clarification, this is owned by the taxpayers, so this is a public building. So with that, all those in favor of setting the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, our next, we have the following ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan for amending the Code of Ordinances by providing for the rezoning of property located in the City of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by Section 1242.02 of the zoning ordinance for property located at Z7 2023, 3712 South Cedar Street from MXC Mixed Use Center to SC Suburban Commercial, was introduced by the Committee on Development and Planning, read a first time by its title, and referred to the Committee on Development and Planning.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. What we have before us is a request, as our clerk said, to rezone property at 3712 South Cedar from mixed-use corridor district to the SC Suburban Commercial District. The purpose of the rezone is to permit the use of the property as a vehicle repair facility. The current zoning designation permits vehicle service stations, which limits the type of vehicle work that may be conducted on the property to minor repairs. The rezone would allow the lot to be used as a vehicle repair station, which permits both minor and major repair activities. And so we would move for a public hearing on August 14th.
All right, we have a motion before us. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, we are now to ordinances for passage. We have an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan, providing for the rezoning of a parcel of real property located in the City of Lansing, Michigan, and for the revision of the district maps adopted by Section 1242.02 of the Code of Ordinances, Z6 2023 1326 North Chestnut Street, and vacant lot to its south from R6A Urban Detached Residential to RMX Residential Mix. Is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Development and Planning and is on the order of immediate passage.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. What we have before us is a request to rezone the property at 1326 North Chestnut Street and vacant lot from R-6A Urban Detached Residential to R-MX Residential Mix. The purpose being, if you'll just indulge me just a minute so I can make sure I'm speaking. The purpose of the rezone is to permit a multifamily residential building on the subject property. The applicant is considering a 4-unit row house with parking behind the building. Let's see, the property is currently, I apologize.
That's okay.
The Planning and Zoning Board, the zoning administrator has recommended the approval of Z-6-2023 to rezone the property to R-MX Residential Mix. During the public hearing, though, we had a number of residents come out against this. This is a residential area and a residential neighborhood, and there was concern that, first of all, this wasn't consistent with the aesthetics of the current neighborhood. They were also concerned about parking and additional foot traffic, and so we had a number of people come out against this project. And so with that, I will move the resolution for final passage.
Okay, thank you. That's moving the ordinance. That's okay, not a problem. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. I just want to put my thoughts on the record because this is a hard one for me, just knowing exactly how that little cutout in the city looks. If you can imagine where Handy's is on Willow Street, and then nobody knows it, but there's a tiny one-way street that goes around, and there's single-family houses all back there, and it's a one-way street where cars can't pass each other because it's that small. All the houses back there are literally single-family, and I worry that adding a multi-unit there would not really fit, but also all it takes is one of those 4 units to have a few extra people over, and then there's already no street parking. The parking lot may or may not account for it, so it's a challenge. I heard a lot from the people out there. They contacted me first. They came in here, and these are the neighbors who live there, and they're very proud of that little, it's not quite a cul-de-sac because it goes all the way around, and then there's a little street in between, but it's, they're opposed to it. I represent them, so I struggle with this one, and I'll just leave it at that.
Councilmember Claus.
Thank you, President Wood. So I actually went out as well to that neighborhood and talked to those folks, and I couldn't find anyone that supported this project. My concern was the parking. My other concern is looking at these. I did some background on these folks on rental history, and I have some concerns that currently they've got 4 rentals in the city of Lansing. One of them is not certified as a rental, and the other 3 have had failures to comply that have lasted over a year when they've owned it, as well as several other violations. So I am concerned that we are going to be giving the keys to the castle to folks that have not, in my opinion, proven that they are capable of following the rules that we have here. And we're going to put ourselves into a situation where we're going to have housing that's not taken care of or not certified and ends up getting, red tagged at the end of the day. So I am going to be a no vote on this.
Other council member comments? Based on the fact that we are talking about a zoning reclassification, the different reasons that council can vote no is if it's not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. And based on that, I've been out there a number of times. I receive calls from the neighborhood as well. I don't believe that this would be compatible with the community, and so I will not be supporting it either. With that, are there any other council comments? If you could please call the roll.
On adoption of the rezoning ordinance, Councilmember Spitzley. No. Councilmember Wood.
No.
Councilmember Brown.
No.
Councilmember Garza.
No.
Councilmember Hussein.
No.
Councilmember Jackson.
No.
Councilmember Cost.
No.
0 yeas, 7 nays. The ordinance is not adopted. And that takes us to the next. We have an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to amend the codified ordinances by amending Chapter 1460.01 Sub M and the International Property Maintenance Code adopted by reference to clarify the parties responsible for prohibiting the occupancy and maintaining the vacancy of placarded equipment and structures. Is read a second time by its title. The ordinance was reported from the Committee on Public Safety and is on the order of immediate passage.
Councilmember Hussein.
Sure. So we actually had a public hearing July 10th regarding this. Essentially, this clarifies who is responsible enforcement. It adds some measure of teeth and clarity for the Office of Law. And then with regard to the work after 5, that is sometimes permitted on red tag properties, placarded properties, both on business days and the weekend. This just clarifies that permission has to be in writing. So with that said, I would move for passage of the ordinance.
Thank you. Do we have any questions at this time? Seeing none, if you could call the roll, please.
On adoption of the ordinance for Chapter 1460, Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Garza.
Yes.
Councilmember Hussein.
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Cost.
Yes.
Councilmember Spitzley. 7 yeas, 0 nays. The ordinance is adopted.
Councilmember Hussein, would you like immediate effect?
I would move for immediate effect.
We have a motion on immediate effect. All those in favor of immediate effect, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, we are to speaker registration for public comment on city government-related matters. That's the yellow sign-in sheet in the back, and if you wish to address city council and haven't yet signed in, please jump up and get with Grace in the next half a minute or so. And in the meantime, we are to reports of officers, boards, and commissions.
Vice President Garza.
All right, thank you, Council President. I move that all items be considered as being read in full and that the proper referrals be made by our president.
We have a motion before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, we have items from the city clerk, minutes of boards and commissions.
Placed on file.
Fireworks display license that was dealt with earlier tonight.
Committee of the Whole and placed on file.
And the Board of Public Service Rules of Procedure.
Committee of the Whole.
Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Board Rules of Procedure.
Committee of the Whole, and just for council members' edification, rules and procedures come to council for our review. We cannot amend them. If we have questions about them, they can be sent back to the appropriate boards with our concerns. With that,
We have items from the mayor, 2 items relative to the amendment to Chapter 273, clarify the role of the Human Relations and Community Services Advisory Board.
Committee of the Whole.
2 items for amendment to Chapter 240, clarify the role of the Human Relations and Community Services Advisory Board.
Committee of the Whole.
2 items relative to amendment to Chapter 273, repeal Section 273.06, examination of complaints, hearings, and studies to conform with city charter.
Committee of the Whole.
2 items relative to amendment to Chapter 273, repeal Section 273.08, prohibited discrimination by city departments or employees to conform with city charter.
Committee of the Whole.
We have 2 workers' compensation claim settlements for referral.
Ways and Means and Internal Auditor.
Grant acceptance, U.S. Conference of Mayors Award for Mikey 23 Foundation.
Ways and Means and Internal Auditor.
Grant acceptance, financially distressed cities, villages, and township grant for violent crime initiative.
Ways and Means and Internal Auditor.
The appointment of Sharon Civils to the Board of Review.
Committee of the Whole.
The appointment of Dale Schrader to the Board of Water and Light Board of Commissioners.
Committee of the Whole.
Amendment to the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone Ordinance.
Development and Planning.
Setting a public hearing on that item.
Development and Planning.
And setting a public hearing on noise special permit. That's for the second public hearing that was acted on earlier tonight.
City Operations and placed on file.
Okay, accepting jurisdiction and control of a portion of the Bolter Drain.
City Operations.
Sewer easement acceptance, 6250 South Cedar and 501 East Edgewood.
City Operations.
Sale of property for vacant Board of Water and Light parcel in Delhi Township.
Ways and Means and Internal Auditor.
And Public Safety Project second quarterly update.
Committee of the Whole.
From the Board of Public Service, the Board of Public Service budget priorities for fiscal year 24-25.
City Operations.
Communications and petitions, claim appeal for claim 1941, Michael Arafat, for $810 in board up fees at 3700 South Waverly.
City Operations.
And a notice from the Liquor Control Commission, DoorDash Essentials, request for transfer of an SDD license, transferring the location from Weberville to 3315 East Michigan Avenue.
City Operations.
Communications from Christian Nwabu regarding his property taxes, rental certificates, and red tagged houses.
Placed on file.
And Michigan Municipal League annual meeting notice.
Placed on file.
We are to motion of excused absence.
Vice President Garza.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion to excuse Councilmember Spatafor.
We have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Remarks by council members.
Are there council member remarks? Seeing none?
Remarks by the mayor or executive assistant.
Okay. Thank you.
Then we are to public comment on city government related matters. Folks have up to 3 minutes to speak on any item relative to the governance or operation of the city. Our first speaker is Loretta Stanaway, followed by Nicholas Zandy.
Okay, a couple of things tonight. I see in the media that the mayor is happy to say we've done better with our bonding and therefore the public safety millage will be reduced some. I say, hurrah, good, anything's better than nothing, but we're talking for the average homeowner, we're talking about a Starbucks cup of coffee a year difference in price. So let's not toot this horn too very loudly just yet. Going along with that, there's a lot of talk again about the idea of selling City Hall, remodeling City Hall, what to do about City Hall. I am still not in favor of selling City Hall. I am still in favor of consolidating floors down to with the necessary amount for the current crew that works here and using the additional floors above that to convert to penthouse suites. I mean, this is the prime piece of property in the city of Lansing. And even if the decision is to go with somebody like the current developer who's admitted he wants another bite at the apple, it could be incorporated into a hotel. There are a lot of hotels in places like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, where there's several floors of rooms available for the tourist and other trade rent, and then there are penthouse suites on top of those rental floors. So it's not an impossibility to make a combination project where we would use the space that's currently occupied by LPD, which will be vacant, and we can use that area for a doorman, for a concierge setup, for dedicated elevators. There could be a floor for a library, a floor for a gym, a conference room, a community room used for events, for public or private events for the residents. Dedicated elevators, dedicated underground parking. We have to start thinking about these kinds of things outside of the box and looking for solutions different than the same old rehashed issues over and over again. And speaking of rehash, I would like to advise the mayor to revert back to his position in the prior elections where he did not endorse any candidates for city council. I think with the brouhaha that has taken place, it's almost reached a level, if it hasn't passed that level, where his endorsement may actually backfire and cost a candidate some vote. So I would advise him to refrain from endorsing anyone else and for endorsing the rest of this campaign and revert back to his previous stance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicholas Zandy, followed by Stan Schock.
Hello. I am here to speak specifically about the discussion earlier on with the mayor's email complaint that the Lynns have submitted to the city council. I am honestly just so infuriated on just how this discussion went. It was so mind-numbingly stupid just how far the city attorney would go to argue with the city council and using certain laws that I'm not sure if it really gets in the way of anyone investigating as a way to block any investigation. I mean, my dad was once an attorney, but that doesn't mean that I have to use words he said in a court of law as a sledgehammer against my own political opponents. That's just wrong on so many levels. And adding on to that, whether or not it's, again, as I've said before, whether or not it's illegal is currently unknown, which is why an investigation is necessary in that case, or in any case whatsoever, if the person is accused, regardless of their position in government. However, it was completely reprehensible for him and just went against what he did previously back in 2021 by endorsing someone for city council who may or may not even make it past the primary and make it to the general. I mean, jury's out on whether or not Missy Liljay is actually going to make the general and whether or not the endorsement will actually help or hurt her. Because really, I just don't think endorsements really anything. And the fact that he's using that email to showcase his meaningless endorsements, which, by the way, some of the people who received the email were actually council members who didn't even ask for it, which is how I got the screenshot, by the way, which is how everyone on Facebook got the screenshot. It was just shows just how corrupt the mayor is and how he's just not standing on something he once stood for. That's not only flip-flopping, that's straight up hypocrisy. And for that, and for the city attorney to say, oh, this is flimsy on the whole thing when trying to investigate the mayor, when he almost used the exact same thing to investigate Mr. Brown on the whole thing, when they were just as, if not probably more flimsy. And so by that logic, the mayor should be investigated almost by any means necessary to see if he actually did anything remotely illegal. As in, like, I don't know, using taxpayer money to fund his leadership fund, which is just, if that actually is a thing, that would just make it even worse.
Thank you. Next, we have Stan Shuck, followed by Candy Rice.
Good evening, Stan Shuck. I'm going to move kind of quickly. A little history. When we started composting and recycling, we went to the people, we built a building, we were going to have a MRF station, we had semi-trucks, we had big, huge gondola dumpsters, we had conveyor belts with people sorting their recyclables, we had people pushing stuff in bobcats, we had 6 seasonal employees, we had 2 enforcement officers. All of these things paid for by the recycling fee and the compost fee. We don't have any of those things anymore. And yet the fee continues to climb and climb and climb. And you're all complacent with it. You just approved an increase, $4 per lot to $117 per lot. I'd like to know how they justified that to you. There's not a person up there that doesn't know that these jobs are not filled today. There's not one of the 6 filled today. The one seasonal he has started full-time today in one of the 400 maintenance jobs. So you're charging us in advance as a fee for all these services yet to be rendered. And yet you don't have the employees that you're charging us for. You're not sweeping that you're charging us for. You don't have the buildings. You don't have the code compliance. You're not doing the catch basin cleaning. And I'm not against the fee. I've got 2 lots. I pay double on all the city taxes. They're not joined. It's one big yard, but it's 2 separate lots. And I don't mind paying. But I only want to pay what I'm supposed to pay. And if you're not going to do all these things that the fee is based on, that's how the fee is made. You add up everything that it costs, and then you separate it by the taxable lots in this city, and everybody pays that set amount. There's not supposed to be a profit. So if you're not going to provide the services, you don't have the employees, you haven't had them. I complained about this when I was the vice chair. So it's been going on for a decade. It's not new. You've been doing it for so long that you think it's acceptable. This is fraud against every taxpayer in this city. Every one of you. It's fraud against you. And you're helping perpetrate it. Where is that money at? Where is the money for the 6 employees that you don't have? Because I've been paying for it since the spring. And you don't have one of them. Not one. The mayor's assistant said to you guys that they couldn't even, that compost was going to be late because they didn't have a truck. So you're not, this year you saved some money back for equipment, but where is that money? This is wrong. You need to reevaluate it and reassess the cost to the taxpayers. This is in the millions of dollars, and most people don't see it because it's in their escrow. Do the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Candy Rice, followed by Erica Lynn.
My name is Candy Rice. I live at 509 East Edgewood Boulevard in the Woodbridge Manor Apartments on the southeast side of Lansing. I'm concerned about the discrimination of the previously incarcerated men and women. When they have served their time, we need to forgive them. And we should offer encouragement to be part of our community by supporting their efforts to find a job and housing. We all have a past, but it should not be the only consideration for reclamation into our city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Erica Lynn, followed by Mike Lynn.
Let me take a deep, long breath because I really want to get this all out. All right, Erica Lynn, real quick, address the elephant in the room that was really hard for me to sit through. The city attorney's recent opinion that he keeps referring to was not regarding the complaint that I will be submitting to the Board of Ethics. So his focus on campaign finance laws and state statutes are completely irrelevant. The mayor is a public official, and he's still a city employee that's bound by the city's code of ethics. That is the complaint that I am going to be submitting. That also makes the city attorney's threat to you all of a misdemeanor law threatening to prevent even discussing, talking about the investigation of a potential ethics violations deeply concerning. That entire exchange was the epitome of oppressive and undemocratic. It was the absolute display of weaponizing the city attorney's office, and it was on full display for the entire public to see, and I hope you all understand what that means for us and anybody that will watch this later, and I will make sure people watch that later. Citizens rely on city employees to be held to the code of ethics standards for reasons. We rely on city officials to act with integrity and prioritize the welfare of our community, of our city, over their own personal interests. So when a mayor exploits their position for personal benefit and the city attorney's office stifles any question or even discussion of it, it undermines the trust that the city has placed in all of you. These violations, and more importantly, the response to these actions, will set standards for future behavior. When morally questionable behavior is allowed to go unchecked, it will establish a very dangerous precedent that normalizes unethical behavior. Expecting elected officials to act with transparency, honesty, integrity, and accountability is the absolute minimum that we expect. And if there's even a question that anything outside of that has occurred, an investigation should be the absolute default. This is adding to an environment where we only see optics. We see propaganda and campaigning by our mayor, the CEO of our struggling city, and a culture that we're seeing where corruption and self-interest is flourishing for the last 6 years. We have to set a higher standard for how elected officials should behave, how city employees should behave, to ensure the integrity of the democratic process and to maintain public trust. I know we said those words earlier, but I want that to sink in. Public trust is the most important thing that you all have to rely on. The witch hunt that was Councilmember Jeffrey Brown's situation, that was driven by the mayor's office, enforced by the city attorney's office, the time and resources that were expended, it didn't stop where it should have. It went further and further and further for a nothing burger, for a new city council member, a citizen that decided to do their civic duty. All I have to say to that, keep that same energy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mike Lynn, followed by Jody Washington.
Dang it. How do I go after that? I just want to say a couple things that I see our mayor left because he didn't want to hear any of this, which is deplorable at best, but that's just who he is. I know a little bit about the ethics violations, right? I was drawn up on one. It didn't go through the proper channels, but I was fired for sharing a what I believed to be at the time a personal phone number of the police chief. All the conversations I had with that man was nothing related to city function whatsoever. It was all personal conversation. And I was actually fired through that process. We actually filed an ethics complaint against the chief for bringing that, and it was denied. And I was fired right here, sitting in this room. There was all types of lawyers and money spent to do that. So I'm really familiar about what you can and can't do. I mean, it's something we have to go through. When I got sworn in as a firefighter, I had to read that whole ethics board book. And I mean, we were told you're a firefighter 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, 365. So we knew. You get caught out sloppy drunk at the bar, even though it's on your own time, you're still a fireman. You have a standard you have to uphold. I think that we have recognized that there's a standard that we all have, and there's a standard that the mayor is allowed to move through. And the reason that is because there absolutely is no checks and balances. He owns and hires and fires everybody who might say you're wrong. or that you need to check on this, including our city attorney. So even though that city attorney answers to you all as well as he does the mayor is the one who hires and fires him, plainly. And the mayor could tomorrow say, I don't want him anymore because he opened an investigation with the council and get rid of him, just like that. And it would be all as transparent as it is for us right now that we just seen what happened. It'd be that transparent if he fired him. He fired him because he opened an investigation against him, and nothing would still happen. And I think the problem is that we haven't really dug into that charter, and maybe even as well as I have, to find out what powers you all really actually have when he starts telling you what you can and can't do. It's like he puts you in a moment where you're sitting there thinking, you know, like even us having 3 minutes, can I get it all out? Or I'll just be safe and not say anything because I don't know what could happen. So when you know the charter as well as maybe some of you all do, you know that that threat was just baseless, period. The fact that you guys can't have a conversation about what was discussed or what's going on, or the fact that he called you up and made you all sign that, and all of you all sat up here and talked about how disgusting that felt to you. But what happens when that happens? Where's the accountability for those individuals, even the city attorney? Does the Department of Justice have to come in here and investigate them again? Because as he said up there, righteous is all out. They're being investigated by the Department of Justice as we sit here for the way that they treated LPD officers and retaliation. That's happening right now, and the fact that nobody spoke to that is beyond me, man. Like, step up. I appreciate you all and what you do, but just, you know, bring out the Eric Mays a little bit. Say it. You know what it is. It's factual. The comments you guys made about the city attorney is absolutely true, and I'm thankful that you said this, and I hope the media reports it. They are using the city attorney as a weapon in multiple fashions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jody Washington, followed by William.
I have a couple things I want to talk about, but first I want to talk about, is that better?
Yes.
The $130 million we're getting from the state for all of these different projects. First and foremost, let's thank Sarah Anthony, Sam Singh, Kara Hope, and Emily Devendorf, some developers that actually fought for us to get this. This did not come from the mayor's office. And I'm going to say that now because I don't want to hear about all of his great deeds in 2 years when he decides to run again. He didn't do it, okay? Secondly on that, as this comes forward, I hope everybody, and I know Jeremy's going to lead the pack on this, it must be done with local and union labor, period. These are our tax dollars going into all of these projects, and I don't even want to begin to hear that our people didn't have transparency in bidding, didn't have the opportunity to bid on it, and were looked over. Carol knows we worked really hard to do a transparency bidding ordinance, and the chamber came in at the last minute sideways and destroyed it all. So Jeremy and the rest of you, please fight for our local workers and our union workers. Now I do have to address what I witnessed. I am aghast that the city attorney did what he did. For him to threaten any one of you with a misdemeanor is deplorable. I guarantee you he had a conversation with the mayor to do that. Again, two people using their positions for their own purpose, deplorable. Jim Smirka is, for all intent and purposes, the mayor's employee. He can fire him, he can hire him, and I can see that the man would be afraid for his job. But he has no right to threaten any one of you. And for the mayor to sit up there and laugh while Michael Lynn was talking is disgusting. I have seen a council member up there who does the same thing or looks totally bored, but to have the mayor sit there and grin and laugh was disgusting. You are public servants, and I will be the first one to say that your position on city council is incredibly important. I know what you do. It's got to stop being a popularity contest. It's got to stop being the mayor stacking so that there are no checks and balances. And frankly, I am really proud of the job you guys have been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and our final speaker is William.
Thank you very much. It seems I forgot to list my last name. I've forgotten many things. But one thing that was drummed into me, excuse me, was the fact of Richard Milhouse Nixon. The reality is the First Amendment to the United States Constitution gives us the right to freedom of speech. In addition to that, one of the most important things there is in America is our right to know what the government is doing. No one can shut up that right. You sit there and you stand and you make a pledge of allegiance to the flag. You sit back and make a pledge of allegiance with liberty and justice. I'm speaking on two issues. Justice for all. Is it just that the people don't know what the government is doing? That is what created this nation, the right to know. Have we forgotten that? I keep my keys around my neck because I lose them sometimes, forget where I place them. But I know the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. I assume most of you are college educated, so I know that you know it too, because they drum it into us from the time we are children. They eliminated the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I eliminated it in the 60s when I realized I did not have liberty or justice. I am a black man. We have returning citizens, don't have the right for a place to live. And we're tolerating that. Now I come in here and I don't have the right to know what wrongs the government is doing. This is Lansing. I can remember what was drummed into me that created the Boston Tea Party. Apparently, our city attorney has forgotten what he has learned. I hope you guys have not. There is nothing that suppresses the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, because without that amendment, the rest don't exist.
Thank you.
That was it.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, Mark. I see you sent the email.
Okay. 20 action items and 20 some referrals in an hour and 15 minutes. That's pretty damn good.